So I'll be taking you through the demo today. How this Ariba gonna be help you out in your career. Okay. So I'll give in these today's demo sessions. Okay, I'll give an insight onto the how Ariba works, what Ariba means, and what all the modules are available in the Ariba. And if you have any questions that how you want to crack Ariba job or interviews, we'll discuss later part of the session. Okay, so before starting onto the session, okay, I see the couple of participants which are available. I just want to know that how many people are working and how many people are new to this IT environment, just to have an idea that how can I take you through the demo. So can I have a quick kind of introduction? I don't want some summarized one, just quick. Okay, you can put me on chat also if you're not able to speak. Okay, SAP procurement is fine. Shushan, what about others? Because it's helped me to understand how how I need to pitch onto the sessions. Okay, SAP SD is fine. Okay, what about others? Let's see, Pamesh, Paul, Rashikar, Shushan, Sujay, Suresh, logistics. Okay. Okay. Anyways, it's fine. Okay, I'll share my screen and I'll give a quick introductions and how we work on this training, and then later part, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, so it's not it's not like a traditional training. You'll feel like experience like you're working on a project. Okay, basically. So first day I'll just give an introduction. I don't want to eat your brains that so much of information available in the Google. You can search and you can get the information, but what you get out of this training is a very important. Okay, so you'll be having a very interaction training sessions. Okay, so a lot of people are into the SAP also, so it's pretty not good to go basic level of what is Ariba, all the stuff. But today's session I'll provide you some insight on the Ariba and then take it from there. Okay, let me share my screen. I'll give just an introduction for at least 5 minutes so that you will get an idea that okay. So you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good morning, guys. just to have a have a fun learning session. Okay. Don't be in a mute or something. Okay.
Good morning, Raj.
Good morning. All right. That sounds good. Okay. Let's kick off. Okay. I'll give just kind of a boring information for you, but try to understand this is the first part of session, so that some people are not aware of that. Some people are not get a time to get onto the Google, but I'll give one. Okay, Ariba was founded in 1996, which onto the on-premise, which then acquired by the SAP in 2022. Sorry, 2012. Okay, so it was like it's a procurement tool, indirect procurement tool, but before it was founded in 1996 till the 2012, it was onto on-premise. It's a separate entity. By 2012, it was acquired by SAP, and then they started looking into the market, and they have done a lot of enhancement changes to the existing tool, and they were into the cloud. Okay, now everyone using the cloud solutions apart from the on-premise solution also. What is on-premise in terms of unlike any software tools which you get installed, which you need to maintaining all the infrastructure, all the data centers, everything. But in the cloud solutions, everything will be like pay per use, where customer will subscribe for the specific solution and they'll start using. And once they're done with the subscription, again they will do a renewal kind of stuff. They will not maintain any infrastructure or softwares to be installed onto these systems. So everything will be maintained by the product. Okay. So here just introduction and what all the solutions available in Ariba. Okay. It's called as part of intelligent spend management suite. They call as any tools into the procurement. They call as a spend management. How they are spending on how they analyze their spend by using these different tools. They do have a different competitors like Ariba. SAP Ariba has a competitors like Coupa, Ivalva, Jaguar, okay, and GEP, Zycus. and there are other different indirect procurement tools also available in the market. But predominantly, SAP Ariba is doing pretty well in the market into these solutions, spend management solutions. So a lot of customers are using the Ariba. So these are the portfolio of Ariba. You see Ariba supplier management and Ariba strategic sourcing, Ariba solution for direct spend, Ariba procurement, and Ariba financial supply chain. What does Ariba supplier management, strategic sourcing, and direct and indirect? I'll explain you here. Okay, this is a whole portfolio. So you see the open platform. The supplier management and risk is two modules where it deal with the suppliers in terms of supplier onboarding, registration, and qualification of the suppliers and evaluation of the suppliers. Once supplier is fine, then you will be sent across these supplier details to the ERP systems where the source of truth starts from the SAP. That's called supplier management. And risk is, you are analyzing the risk of the supplier. It might be, what we call boring to you guys. Maybe it's difficult to understand, but slowly try to understand that. Okay, whenever you are trying to do a business with a supplier, in business, there is a process of onboarding of suppliers, evaluation of the suppliers will be done in the supplier management. Okay, then coming to the risk. When you're purchasing something, you need to understand what risk associated with the supplier when you're buying something. Okay, it's very important from the regulatory perspective. If you take any industry like healthcare, insurance, pharma, or manufacturing. So if you are not aware of what risk associated with the supplier when you're purchasing something, so suddenly if you realize there is some risk associated, then you maybe end up in some issues with your regulatories. Okay, so always the companies will have different tools. Maybe they'll use Ariba or maybe use different tools, but risk will be available and supplier onboarding process will be available. Okay, risk is nothing but you'll be evaluating the suppliers onto the different parameters like CSR, anti-bribing, so like ABC, and BCM, business continuity planning, and a lot of other areas which in a company will evaluate, and they'll find out how much risk associated with this particular supplier from the specific location or specific category. Let's say when they're trying to purchase a software solution, software services. Okay, if they see that, okay, they are into the different location, if they see that there is some geographical or anti-bribery issues, so they will see that how we can mitigate it, or else they stop doing a business with them and they'll go and see another supplier. So that's a risk part. And you see the sourcing and contract and spend visibility. These all supplier management, risk, sourcing, contracting, spend visibility is a suite of strategic procurement. Okay, how strategically you plan to purchase something when you get onto the operational procurements. Okay, so all the planning happens in the strategic. How well you strategic to evaluate onboard the supplier, how will you do a bidding with them, how you establish a contract with the supplier, and how you can see the spend visibility with this particular supplier. Everything will be comes under the strategic procurement. Coming to the sourcing nothing but how well you source to procure something from supplier in terms of you'll be doing an RFPs, RFIs, RFQs, auctions in the sourcing. So how well you do a sourcing with the supplier to get a best price from them, and awarding the suppliers in terms of you're going to be doing business with them, and then translating those RFPs to the contract in terms of, let's say example, you're trying to purchase something like laptop or any services. Okay, I'll provide you what all the indirect services will be available. Okay, so let's say if you're trying to procure a laptop services or the professional services or travel services, so when you're doing sourcing, you'll have multiple suppliers across the globe. And last time you procured 1,000 laptops with so and so amount. Now you want to minimize the spend or reduce the spend. So by using this sourcing module. So what they will do, they'll run a sourcing RFP to the multiple suppliers across the globe. Last time, let's say example, you got the laptops for 10,000 USD. Now this time you have a projection of having 6,000 of the spend. In terms of you're saving 4,000. So that's the reason many of the customers will use these specific tools. It's not something that mandate that use this tool. Without benefit, no customer will be used. Okay, there will be some benefits, not some huge benefits out of using these tools. Okay, sourcing. So now you are saving 4,000. So they'll go with multiple vendors and they'll find the best vendor which they can provide you the 6,000 USD dollars for same requirement which you purchased last time. Like you send an RFP with a specific set of code and their response to that, and you award, and then this transfer to the contract, and then you can transfer to the purchase order. In terms of you'll order like, okay, I want 100 quantities of laptop. This is the price, and this is the supplier. This is a supply location. Okay, this is a ship to, and this is a bill to, and this is delivery to, and then you'll raise a purchase order document, and it will send across to the supplier, and supplier will deliver the goods. Once the supplier deliver the goods, you will receive it, and then supplier will raise an invoice. This is a procurement process. I'll come to there, but I'm just giving a high level. What is the purpose of using all these tools? So once you have a best bid out of the sourcing, then you will transit into the PO, and you will procure it. That's a sourcing contract. So when you have a contract, let's say example, you have done a sourcing and you are awarded a best supplier who is giving $6,000 for 10 quantities of laptops. Okay, so now you want to establish a contract that, okay, so you in line with our agreement. Okay, so this is a contract document. We need to have an agreement. Let's say supplier and buyer will talk to each other and establish a contract with supplier. Let's say I have a recurring expenses, like every month I need 10 laptops to be procured, or 100 laptops. I'm just giving an example, or 1,000 laptops. It can be varied. Okay, let's say precisely, let's say 10 laptops. Okay, so now I establish a contract with the supplier saying that, okay, I need 10 laptops. Then we'll have a different agreements which both parties will agree, and you will establish, and then we'll talk about the pricing terms also. Okay, let's say example, if I purchase more than 10, okay, the supplier is giving me the discount, or supplier me giving some sort of a negotiation price on top of it. So in that, you'll define everything in the contract. Contract, nothing but a legal document which you establish in terms of buyer will establish with the supplier. Both parties will agree on this particular contract, and they'll proceed for procurement in terms of purchasing process. Okay, and spend visibility, coming to, it's a kind of reporting tool where you'll dump all these sourcing, contracting, and the procurement activities, and you'll see how much spend onto your different categories. Okay, that's a different area. A lot of other tools also there, but very less customers will be using the spend visibility tool. Okay, and coming to the operational procurement, where you'll have a guided buying in terms of you'll have an Amazon kind of experience where buyers will get onto the guided buying and search for the respective catalog, non-catalog items, and punch out items and procure. In terms of you have done supplier management, you have onboarded supplier into Ariba, you assess the risk with the supplier. Let's say example, supplier A, you onboarded, you do have requested specific questions and they have qualified, and you have done risk. There is no risk associated with the supplier. And then you have done a sourcing with these suppliers. Then you identified, okay, this supplier is giving a best price. Okay, and then you are moving to the contract. Okay, I'm going to establish the contract with you, so that in future also any issues with the agreement, any issues with the supplier, you have an agreement in place and you can talk to, and you can go to legally. Then once it is done, you have a readily available supplier with the contract, with the bid in terms of how much you have quoted from the sourcing. Then you'll get onto the guided buying. You will search for the specific items. Let's say laptops. I'll get a laptops and I'll procure the laptops, and then the legal document generate in Ariba. and it will send across to the supplier. So guided buying, it's nothing but you call it as a procure to pay. Guided buying will be divided into the different categories. In terms of every organization, you will have a different categories. Different category will be doing a purchasing. Okay, so they'll get onto this guided buying, like let's say marketing department, HR department, finance department, MRO supplies department, okay, lease management, travel. There are a lot of other categories are there. So in guided buying, the consultant or the requirement comes like every category manager should have a different tile, and it contains a different forms as well as different catalogs related to the category, so that the category manager or category buyers will get onto the system of the P2P, and they will, it's like looks like an Amazon. Okay, how you purchase in Amazon or Flipkart or some other tools, eBay. The same way it will be available to customer, so that they'll start procuring the items and they'll do a receiving, and sometimes they'll do an invoicing on behalf of supplier also. Okay, and also you'll have a spot buy when you are not able to find the specific item in the guided buying, so you can have a quick spot buy to get onto the different marketplaces. The marketplaces will be vary with the country to country. Okay, you can go to Amazon and you can procure and you can check out and you can raise an order. Okay, that's the operational side. Solution for direct spend, that's called a supply chain. Sourcing for direct, where there's some part of solutions in Ariba which will be providing an access to the direct spend also, which directly integrated to the ERP systems. So predominantly in our training sessions, we'll look out for the sourcing, contracting, and the guided buying. Okay, so I'll give us some sort of glimpse on the supply management and risk in the training to get an idea, and supply chain also. So any questions? Are you guys following me, right? You can ask me any questions, any doubt here, okay? So this is the first baby step to you guys to get understand the different tools, okay? All right, okay, no worries. Okay, all right, let me take you to the next step, okay? So sourcing, contracting, buying, and invoicing. Buying, nothing but you'll have only P2O, Ariba buying and invoice, you'll have a transaction of P2P, okay? So some customers will use only P2O, purchase to order only, the implementation. Some customers will be used to P2B, procure to pay, okay? That I will come to when we are getting to the P2B. Sourcing, contracting, and Ariba buying and invoicing. We'll deal with these three different modules, okay? And also I'll give an idea of the supplier management and risk once we get onto the sessions, okay? So this is the process of sourcing, how they will do a sourcing, just to give an idea, okay? Don't get confused. We'll discuss once we get onto the module in detail, okay? So first they'll start with the request and they'll run let's say example, you're working for a company. You have a request that to procure some stationery items, okay? Some stationery items. So they'll start with the request, okay? The category people in the organization, they'll start with the request, like, they want to purchase some, office supplies. So then after request, they will go for their category manager specific to the office supplies. They'll approve it. Then it will convert to an event, like you want to have a short introduction about your company, and you want to know about the supplier. You'll run an RFI. So in that, you'll not discuss about any pricing or this stuff, okay? Then you'll get an RFI. Then you find that, okay, interesting with the supplier. After assessing all the risk or onboarding supplier, then you'll do an RFP. Then you'll discuss about the pricings, and then finally you say, okay, fine, I'll do a business with you. Then bid's done, and you will run a scenario that, okay, how much percent you want to allocate this supplier. Okay, if you see that there is an interesting with these two suppliers, like, both supplier has different traits. Okay, I want to do a business with this both. Then I'll execute the scenario. Okay, I'll allocate 50% of the supplier with A and 50% of with B in terms of doing in a business out of 100%. That's a scenario. Or else you find, okay, one supplier is the best supplier, then I'll be running a scenario 100% allocation to the supplier and then do an award. Then contract request or the contract workspace starts. Then you'll have a main agreement. You'll have a different roles within the team in terms of this document has to be reviewed by the different teams in the organization, like legal department, HR department, or finance department. So whether the supplier will be agree with our agreement or not, if any changes, we'll talk to the supplier and we'll amend the agreement. Not amend, we'll fine tune the agreement and we'll create a main agreement. Then the contract approach will go with the different teams like legal and finance and say that, okay, everything's fine. Then finally, it will go for a digital signature with the supplier and internal organization. Then you have an agreement. Okay, let's say example, in any company you're working, any software company, before getting your project, they'll run a sourcing. Let's say example, some IT company, XYZ, running an event for a healthcare or pharma company. Okay, they have a requirement of implementing some software tools into their pharma company. So they'll run a sourcing and they'll identify the top IT companies like A, B, C, D, and then they'll finally identify the A and B is giving a best IT consulting service in the market, or A is giving a best IT consulting service out of ABC. They'll go with a contract with A, contract in terms of they'll sign with NDA that you don't disclose anything, and then they'll sign SOW that we're going to be provide a service to you. We're going to be provide a project to you, then you can start working on implementing those tools. Same process everywhere. If you look at any industry, the process will be the same. So once you execute the contract signature, then you will have a final contract in place. Then in that you can discuss about terms. Okay, terms nothing but, as I said, the pricing discussions. We'll discuss about the pricing. Okay, then finally you will be in line to the pricing. Then you will raise a PO. Let's say you got a project in a IT company, IT consulting. Okay, so company will get a project, then they'll recruit the people, they'll onboard the people. Before onboarding, they'll have a purchase order with the IT consulting company, supplier shades. Okay, so this is the purchase order for 5 years of the contract. I need a 4 FTs or 5 FTs should be work on implementation of this particular project, and support I need a 3 FTs. All will be documented in the main agreement. With that, you will have assigned to the SO statement of work, and then you will be start working, and company will, IT consulting company will, every month or weekly, based on their agreement, they'll raise a PO and they'll get an invoice for that. In terms of supplier will receive services, and we will raise, sorry, supplier, not buyer, will receive a services like we are trying to implement so and so, and we are in the phase of build phase or testing phase. Every phases or every weekly, the buyer will raise a requisition and supplier will deliver the services. And finally, supplier will raise an invoice that, okay, 5 FTs are working on this particular project. Okay, so they'll do a billing and they'll get an invoice for that billing amount. And then finally, the invoice and payment will be done. In terms of this is overall process, like purchase requisition, you'll raise a requisition that, okay, for 5 FTs who are working on the software implementation, this is the cost, and it will go for an internal approvals. Okay, then the purchase order will be raised, then they'll receive a services. Here, IT consulting service behave as a supplier, the pharma company or healthcare company behave as a buyer, so that they'll do all this process. Okay, so any confusion over here? Slowly, once you get onto the next session, you'll get to understand clearly, because I'm just giving you the high level, that too subject related, not something which is not informative in the first session. Okay, any questions in the process? You can ask me, okay? Or else I'll give a 10 minutes of time so that you can ask me the questions, okay? Any questions into the, how you get onto the Ariba or something, we'll discuss there, okay? So you'll have integrations also. This Ariba can integrate with the different ERP tools, okay? So integrating will happens with the different tools which is available with Ariba, ITK, CIC, okay? Using web services, okay? Different tools will be integrated with the ERP systems with the available tools, integration tools available with Ariba, or else you can use MiNdLiNkS like or any other MuleSoft Rail, web methods, or Dell domain, okay, or SAP and PO. By using different middlewares, you can integrate with external ERP systems. Okay, that we'll discuss in detail why we need to integrate all this stuff. So coming to, so what all the indirect services comes into the company. Basically, this will be very useful who has a baby step into the procurement area. So what are the indirect spend? Why we are using Ariba as indirect spend tool? So what we can use in terms of the indirect procurement will not covers direct manufacturing of the goods, which facilitates the final product. In terms of, let's say example, you go to the restaurant, okay? So a restaurant, when you're using table, when you're using chairs, wallpapers, lighting, toilets, signages, these are the additional services which helps you to have a happy drink over there and get out from there. Okay, construction of a restaurant or taking a land which comes to the direct, and using the tables, chairs, wallpapers, that comes into the indirect in terms of indirect procurement. And technology, software and hardware comes into this indirect. E-commerce, online marketing, email distributions, digital creative materials and services. These are all the categories which comes into indirect in terms of when you go to the customer, all the customers which are using the Ariba for indirect. So these are the categories which they do in a procurement in terms of if they are doing sourcing. Let's say example, they want to procure some tables or chairs. Let's say example, restaurant company want to implement an SAP Ariba. Once they implement SAP Ariba, sourcing or contracting or P2P, they'll procure all these tables, chairs, wallpaper, lighting, toilet, signages, and some other required glasses for the restaurant. Okay, all these categories they'll start procuring by using the Ariba tool. Like sourcing, they want to do a sourcing. Every month they want to get a tables, or every year they want to get a tables from some vendors. So last time they procured something, or chairs, or wallpapers, they want to change the wallpapers, from which vendor they want to procure it. Okay, all this will be comes into the restaurant. And technology, software, what sort of software? It's for the technology companies. For e-commerce kind of a domain companies, they'll use this Ariba tool for procuring online material distribution, any events, if there is any events. Okay, how they will this do a sourcing to procure all this email or email distribution related items, or if there is a logistic, food deliveries from depot or to the restaurant sites, or the security guards or CCTV alarm for the security perspective. For utilities, how you can plan to do purchase order for electricity or water bills or gas bills, or professional service, how well you can use the professional services, legal HR insurance services by using Ariba. So these are the kind of indirect procurement categories. So if you work with any of the customer of the technology, commerce, healthcare, finance, so they will be purchasing all this. Okay. So with that, I'll be closing this demo, and let's discuss about if you have any questions or something. Basically, in this training, okay, this is called we defined as a task-based training in terms of, unlike I'll be speaking. It's not like monotonous. Like it will be interacting. Like I'll be acting as a project manager. You'll be acting as a consultant. So I'll explain you the use case along with the tool. Then you have to start working on the tool. Okay. Let's say example, I'll be act as a healthcare industry or pharma industry. I'll provide my use case, okay, and I'll explain you how sourcing works. Then you have to define your sourcing model, define in terms of how you configure the sourcing. Okay, so I'll explain you the training, how sourcing works, and then I'll give a use case. Then you have to configure those use cases that how sourcing works, and then you have to act as a buyer in terms of as an end user. Then you have to run a sourcing event. Once you've done successfully, the sourcing model complete. Okay, so then contract. In contract is a similar thing. We'll have a different use cases. I'll be explaining you the tool, then you will be working on the use case. In terms of, let's say example, they want to run a sourcing event, okay? And then I'll provide a use case like, okay, run a sourcing event for a specific category. Then you have to configure that. In terms of while configuring, I'll explain you what all the options are available in the sourcing, contracting, or P2P. Using those options in line with this use case, you have to configure it so that you'll get to understand that, okay, so you cater this industry. Let's say example, I'll give a pharma or healthcare or insurance. So you'll get a clear understanding that, okay, what are the use cases available for this particular domain, so that when you get onto the actual consulting part, so you'll get to understand easily, okay, so this is how I need to configure. Okay, so if you don't have work experience also, that's fine, I'll explain you. Okay, just try to understand what is indirect procurement tool, what all the modules are available, how sourcing works. I'll explain you that during the sourcing model, how it gonna be works. Anyone who has experience, who doesn't have any experience also, it's fine. So just focus on that. Whatever I'm trying to provide you the information, just focus on that so that you'll get to know. Use case, nothing but it will give an additional information how customer will request in terms of how the customer has the requirements onto their specific domain. Okay, and you will have some user stories also. How customer will ask you the requirements also, how this going to be works. Based on that also, you will need to provide, as a consultant, you need to provide a solution to the customers also. Okay, all right. So apart from this session, okay, you have any questions or something? You want to clarify anything? Anything?
Hi, Raj.
Yeah. Who's this?
This is Parmeshwar.
Yeah,
As of now, I worked as a Linux admin.
Mhm.
I don't have any experience about SAP. So is it
Okay,
good
all
for
right.
me? I can able to learn or not?
Yeah, it's absolutely fine, because from coming to the Linux or any legacy systems, or if you're working Java, any .NET also, it's absolutely fine to be moved to the procurement. All you need to understand how the procurement process works in terms of buying and supply will happen in a procurement, to be precise. In everyday day-to-day activity, you're doing all this stuff. Okay, so it's not
Okay.
out of out of your scope, or it's not out of from the humans. Every day you're doing transactions. Let's say during the lockdown in India, you've been procuring a lot of things by using different e-commerce sites, right? Similar way, how companies are procuring for their internal purpose is the process. How well they are doing a sourcing, how well they're doing in contracting. Simple. Okay.
And one more thing, how would be the career opportunities after SAP?
Absolutely fantastic. A lot of huge opportunities are there. A lot of customers are moving onto the cloud, and with this pandemic, a lot of customers which are onto the legacy systems also moving onto the cloud, because a lot of benefits are there out of clouds. Okay, as I said you that, okay, you don't need to maintain the software, just you need to subscribe and you need to pay and use it. A lot of small customers are using electronically. Okay, why Ariba is doing big business than Coupa. So it's completely, that's Sujay. Okay, it's completely vary with the product portfolio. Okay, so both are some basically Ariba purchased by SAP. So a lot of customers who are established business with SAP are having a transition to Ariba also, because you have some seamless integration with your existing systems also. Even Coupa also has it. But anyways, some customers already using an SAP. They like to go in a SAP Ariba also, because that's a product of SAP. So more or less, sometimes, in Ariba, sourcing and contract has edge onto the Coupa. Sometimes Coupa P2P has edge onto the Ariba. Some features, but more or less, both are doing great business. It's up to the customers what they want to opt to use, which tool they want, based on their requirement and based on their internal process. They'll choose it. But more or less, both Ariba, Coupa, Evalva doing great in the market. Okay, once you learn Ariba also, it's pretty easy to understand other tools also, because the process will be the same. It's a generic question. It's completely up to the customer, but main predominantly why they are going with this, already a lot of customers are using SAP, and then they see that okay, they want to go with an SAP Ariba only to integrate with their external systems, so that it have easy to have a transition from other system to Ariba. Okay, from career perspective, you have a huge opening. As I said, that once you learn this tool, then it will help you to understand other tools also. Only the UI, some sort of configuration will be different, but more or less is the same. And any from the non-technical, or any from non-procurement background, any from the coding background, it's absolutely fine to learn this. This is pretty good tool. Okay, so every company will have a procurement tool. Every company will have a required and support. Okay, every company will have enhancements. So all the companies. It's not like some companies will use you implement for Java, some companies use for the .NET, some companies Python. Every company need a procurement to purchase something. In terms of, let's say, just to give a rough example, if there is a 500 companies in your area, every company has to be used the procurement tools in order to see their spend, how much they are spending onto the internal procurement. Okay.
Okay. One more question. In entire scenario, sourcing project and P2P process, as a functional consultant, what are the activities you will do?
That's a good question. Consulting perspective, first, it's in line with these module procurement, in line with the process and technology. Okay, you have to sometimes tweak the technology configuration. Sometimes you have to take the process, not completely deviating. Okay, so now you have to in line with the process, in terms of you have to configure, let's say, sourcing process. As I said, that start with sourcing request, sourcing project, and you have to run an events, RFI. This is a process. With that, you'll be having a different approval process, different tasks to be there. Okay, so this process has to be configured into the tool. Okay, let's say now you are, let's take example, generic example. Now you want to purchase a, let's say, what is called now example, oximeter. Let's take a real scenario which currently happens. Oximeter, let's say. You get onto the Amazon, you search for the oximeter, you got the oximeter, you checked out. Okay. So now when you get onto the Amazon, you're searching for a specific item. Okay. So you'll search for a specific item and you'll purchase and you'll check out and you'll procure and you'll receive it. Okay. So same way in company, they'll procure by using P2P, and they will be running a sourcing to procure this oximeter. Let's say Amazon has a different sellers. Okay, when you purchase something, it has a different sellers that selling these oximeters. They will discuss that who is providing best price. Okay, when coming to the B2B, companies will the company which implemented sourcing has a different step. Okay, when you're purchasing or when you're going on an RFP for something like oximeters or masks or PP kits or something, then you will be running a sourcing event. When you're running a sourcing event, you'll have a different phases that, okay, first phase, what kind of PPA and from which supplier you want to procure, what is the quality from which you are procuring. All this will be put it onto the sourcing, okay, as a documentation or as a task, and with that you'll need some approvals within that. Okay, So let's say example, you are trying to procure 100 PP kits, but you don't require something. And then you tried raising a sourcing, it went for your manager approach. Manager approach in terms of within the organization, they'll have an organization structure. When they are procuring or when they are doing sourcing for something, they need a certain approvals from certain categories. They'll approve it. Once they approve it, then it will go for a next step. So all these configurations you need to done. Like Amazon, when you're trying to search for an item, how this item is coming up. When you're doing checking out, all these steps, okay, how this got configured in order to have a smooth landing onto the purchase order. All these steps you need to configure. When you get onto the next sessions, Ariba has different process of configurations, okay, and the company has a different process when they're existing, okay. When they are doing a sourcing, when they are doing contract, or when they're doing even a P2P, they'll follow best practice out of in the industry process, and then they'll use a tool. Accordingly, we need to configure so that when they are trying to purchase something, like as a given example, you go for Amazon, you search for an item, how this item is getting up, that we need to configure. And then when you check out, how this checking out, how it is moving to the next page. So just giving an example, but it contains the different options in Ariba that we will explain. Okay. We need to configure the step-by-step process, how we can translate those processes into the tool, how well they can use it. And also I have another question, Sujay, is it having good rate to pay everywhere? Actually, so how many years of experience ideally preferred? It's, the experience, it's not depends upon experience. Okay. So if you have a 2 years, 4 years of 10 years of experience, completely depends on how expertise you want to this tool. It's completely onto your interview and completely onto your current package. Okay. And you'll have some edge compared to the other tools also. Okay. Absolutely, you'll have some edge onto this particular tool compared to other tools also. But pay rate, as I said, it completely depends upon the customer requirement and what you call customer location and your existing package and how well you perform onto the interview. If you learn this Ariba, then as I said, absolutely free for other tools also. Easily you can catch up and you can learn. Let's say example, you worked on Ariba for 2 years and customer, you're working with some IT consulting company. Then other customer came into picture. They are using different tools. Easily you can transition because the process will be the same, the configurations will be so. There will be a few changes onto the tool to tool that you'll come to know. Okay, but more or less, it's like learn 1, get 3 or 4 or 5 also. Okay, any other question? And if you go with work with any other, I just give an example, you'll get more or less 500. If you go to Europe or somewhere, 500 in UK, 500 GB, and Euro, you'll have 600 to 700 euros per day if you work as a consultant. More or less, if you translate it, it's like every day 40 or 50,000 when you're in Europe or from Europe region, UK. Okay, good pay also in India also, and Singapore, Malaysia also, everywhere. Okay, you see the good, but don't expect much. Contracts like you have a package of 7 lakhs. Don't expect something 30 or 40. Okay, any questions? Any questions you can ask, feel free to ask me. And giving a service to you, use the services. Okay. Now you are the buyer, I'm the supplier. Okay. Any questions you can ask me. Any basic question also is fine. Okay. And with that, we'll train you. Okay. And we'll provide assist you onto the preparation of interviews and provide assist you onto the preparation of resume also. Okay. So any questions, any helps you require, we'll be providing the services.
As far the training goes with you, the experience, how many months will it take for a guy who is already worked into SAP, but not directly with purchasing, but other modules? How many months will it take to take a grip to
Okay.
present himself so he knows the best practices of Ariba and what
Yeah.
are the expectations needed in real time?
Right. It's a good question. Okay. Again, if you follow my training, how quickly you can grasp. It's if you're not good at your procurement, or if you're not good at this technology also, if you follow my training, let's say example, if training completes 30 days, within 30 days you can be perfect. And let's say example, if you are very fast in understanding, okay, we can quickly move on. Okay, it's completely depends upon individual. Okay, I cannot say that for someone we need to have a fast track and we go ahead and we can complete. It's overall 30 days training. Within the 30 days, whatever I'm explaining, you trying to grab that and put it onto your paper, and apart from that, try to learn something so that you will get additional information also. Overall, you can say within 30 days you will be masterpiece in this.
Okay.
Okay, I can give one day also. Okay, but it's up to you guys individual.
True.
But overall 30 days. Okay. But more or less, it depends upon, if you look at the perspective of individuals, will put as a 45 days. Okay, within that 45 days, so here and there, because you need to practice, you will have some questions and I'll provide you the additional information. But let's say bracket is 45 days, because as I said that we need to not talk an individual perspective, as a group. 45 days will be a duration. Within that, we'll try and see how well we are going with the sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So any other questions? Finds interesting or boring? Okay. All right.
Hi.
So if no,
sorry. Yeah. I put it on the chat window. I think you're not able to see that. Maybe it's just from the organizers. So I want to check if the training is sufficient, or would a certification, it's mandatory to get a good job and better prospects.
and currently, no one is asking for certification, but many companies or people are doing certification. Good to have, but it's not mandated to get onto the certification. First thing, to be precise, just take a step back and see. There is a crunch of experts. The first step. Okay, even the people are not available in the market. So then getting certification will be the next level. Okay. First, in the market, there is a huge requirement. There is a crunch in the resource availability. Okay, so you don't worry about the certifications. So first, try to get a job into them, then do a certifications. Automatically, once you get out of any big consulting company, so they will train again. They will provide you the certification something. If you're really interested to do your certifications, there will be a different process you need to go through. Get a certification, but ideally I don't think so. How many certifications you will do? There are a lot of modules out there like sourcing, contracting, and within that P2P and the integration. So if you do one certification, it doesn't mean that you have everything. So keep aside for the certification, get well trained. So get placed onto any of the big company or small companies. They'll get trained you onto the respective module as they're required, and then I think in next 4 to 5 years, maybe they ask you to have a certification. But now no one is asking certifications. So you don't worry about that. Focus on to the current modules and learn it.
Okay.
And work. I have a couple of working in logistics. Absolutely fine. If you work in any industry, it's fine. See, if you're working any tool of any industry, ultimate the customer will comes into the different domains like healthcare, pharma, or logistics or manufacturing. Once you understand the domain, the procurement will be very simple. Understand the domain in terms. You'll talk in a domain language. You'll collect the requirements. You translate it into your technology, own technology like SD or TM or whatever the technology which you're working. And in coming to the testing background also, any tool which required a testing process and you have to go through the testing process, and then you have to deploy it. So the process, use cases, user stories, and scenarios will be different from the tool to tool, but ultimate testing process will be the same. You need to test it, the process. You'll have it documented there, all the steps. Accordingly, you'll use the different tools for testing, and you'll test it. And any bugs or any issues, the respective product or respective consultant will fix it, and you'll be deployed. Testing process, any background, which it doesn't matter. It really helps you in terms of if you already have experience, it will be value add to this tool. If you doesn't have experience, it's you to learn a lot of things. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Suresh, am I answered to your question? Okay, all right. Paul, SAP SDN, transport management, right? Okay.
Right.
It's not a problem if you have a SD or TM or
CRM as well. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. CRM also fine. Any experience will be value add to Ariba. Okay. As I said, it's not completely different. Sales and distribution. When you come sales and distribution, once you start with the procurement, then you'll go to actual sales, and then you do a sales and distribution. Transportation management, it will be in line with the procurement. When you're doing some procurements, obviously you needed some transport to be delivered to schools or something, right? So everything will be around the procurement. If you take a finance, FI, then when you're doing a procurement, when you're purchasing something, all the financial aspects comes into picture. From which cost center you're booking, from which GL you're booking, whether it's a project type or activity. Again, it will be interrelated. Okay. When you're doing MM, material management, so how you're planning and how you're procuring direct, and how you integrate it with the network, Ariba network, for the direct procurement. For indirect, you'll use Ariba. Everything will be interlinked. So it's not something which is out of boundary. Okay.
So how about to get the practice or exercises and how to prepare ourselves? So it will be daily or after you finish the lecture, we'll be getting it right for the practices hour. Right?
Okay. The best practice is that you can practice day to day, but you need to have some understanding onto the tool, right?
Correct.
If you start doing from first day, you'll encounter a number of options. You'll end up in confusion, and the sessions will be routed into a different way. Okay, we'll go step by step. Let's say example, when I'm pitching onto sourcing, I'll explain you sourcing. Okay, so try to understand the process and try to understand the options. And then once I say that we are done with the sourcing certain part, you can practice this, then get onto the system and practice to that limit. Don't go beyond that. Okay.
Okay.
So if you go beyond that, then we end up in the confusions. We'll give a remote access, and whenever you require, we'll provide an assistance. Okay. And also during the session, please take notes and write step by step. Whatever I'm trying to explain, you take that. Okay. Then practice that in the system. And then once we're done with that, then we'll move on to the next. Okay. I'll assist you also what to practice, what to not practice, because in a tool you'll have a number of options. Once you start exploring a number of options, it's good to have, but step by step, we'll go step by step. If I'm saying something and you're doing something else, then the system will be end up in somewhere else. Then you'll end up in errors. Then you'll find losing your interest on that. We'll go step by step, and I'll give you some protocols on how to follow this. Okay. Okay, one more question. I don't have work experience. It's fine, absolutely. If you don't have any work experience, also it's fine. Can I get any proper documentation to practice? Proper documentation in terms of, I'll explain you step by step. Just feed that, put it on paper, that's enough. If I say that creation of sourcing project, go to this, click on that, just note down that, that's enough. Okay. And also I'll share you the documents also for your additional, getting into skin of actual terminology. That's help you out. Any questions? Any workbook kind of thing here, practice easy? Yeah. So workbook in terms of when I'm explaining, I'll put it on the Word documents with the step by step. I'll share the documents also. You write down onto the paper, and use that only step by step. Okay, don't expect, let's example, you don't have anything on to your ground. Whatever I'm teaching, that's the final. Just imagine that. Okay, and follow the steps. And in addition to that, I'll provide a documentation also, because you should not drift your focus onto another aspects. That's what I'm trying to say, because I've been given a lot of trainings. So once I provide a training, once we give an a remote access, once we provide documentations, they'll look at the documents which is not relevant to the training, and they'll end up in a confusion. They'll see that, okay, this has a lot of documentation which I'm not able to read it. They'll keep it in library. Okay, they'll never open any PDF. Just sake of their satisfaction, they'll put on their folder. Okay, I have a document. Let me not focus much on the training session. That's what happening. Focus on the training sessions. I'll give additional documents also. Don't worry about that. But open when I say open. Okay, just because you'll need to have a very expertise training. Okay, whatever I'm explaining, I precisely extracted from those documents, and I'm explaining you. Okay, all right, sounds good. Or else if it doesn't work, then I'll get onto your shoes and I'll seek your suggestions and we can do it. As I said that it's a task-based training sessions. Okay, we'll have interacting sessions, and don't go with the traditional that I'll say something and you'll write something and you'll do practice 2 or 4 days or 5 days. It's not like that. Okay, they'll go with the real scenario training, which you need to be benefit out of these trainings. Okay, I'm pretty sure whatever I'm uttering, take that, take a notes, just follow that. That's it. Even in your sleep also, you'll follow the steps and you can explain without touching system also. You'll be expertise. I can guarantee you that. Just take the steps which I'm saying. Remember that even you are not having system also, you can explain in the interview. I can promise that. All right. If no questions, I can wind up. We have a 1 more minute. Okay. All right. If no questions, I can close it. And then we can catch up. Once you guys are in, then we'll start the project. I say project. Okay.
So when is your real-time session starts, tomorrow or some other day? Admin will announce.
That's again, the admin will communicate with you guys. Okay. And 1 second, let me check with him. Tomorrow we can start it. From tomorrow we can start at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we can start from tomorrow. Don't miss these sessions. Okay, it will be quite interesting. Okay, and you can close your internal process whatever with the admin. So don't lose any sessions. Okay, follow all the sessions. By within that 45 days you'll be expertise, and then you'll get on any company, and happily you can work and enjoy your life. Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Then see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
The time will remain 8 AM, right? Same time, right?